and a very warm welcome to you all. I'm Meha Bharadwaj-Alter and this is Game On. Australia have pulled things back after Sri Lanka got off to a brilliant start with their openers Pathum Nissanka and Kushal Perera putting up a 125-run stand. But Australian captain Pat Cummins, who's been under pressure after an ordinary World Cup so far, he delivered when Australia needed him the most. He got the wickets of both the openers, and once they were gone, Sri Lanka collapsed. And at this moment, I think Australia are going to be the happier side. Chetan Narula is going to be on the show. Vedam Jaishankar joins us here. But what a turnaround this has been for Australia, Vedam. To think that they just completely were outplayed in the first half of that innings, but to come back like this, they'd be buoyed by it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with what you said. I think, as we've noticed, Australia have learned from their errors. Maybe they've been in India for quite some time now, and they've been talking to others. So when the ball is hard and new, yes, runs do flow. But as the ball gets softer, it's difficult to score, and that's where they really have tightened the screws. Of course, Sri Lanka got off to a great start, but they couldn't sustain it as the wear and tear on the ball also ensured it was softer. And then run making became so much more difficult. And much as they tried to work against the grain, I think Sri Lankan batsmen really faltered. And Australia, of course, kept up the pressure. What brilliant bowling, lines, and of course the fielding. Fielding was absolutely magnificent. I really haven't seen this sort of catching for such a long time. The way Warner caught it or Cummins affected a run out, absolutely brilliant. So I think all in all, Australia have understood the game much better. They are really played to Indian conditions. They have bowled well. They have bowled very tightly. They have fielded very well. And the end result is there for all to see. And I think it's a disappointing day for Sri Lanka.
Absolutely. I mean, especially because of the kind of start they got, one would have thought that they would have carried on to at least go on to score 350 runs. But here we are, and it looks like they wouldn't get anywhere even close to that. They are not even going to be able to get to 250. Chetan Narula also joins us here. Chetan, what a turnaround. I was just asking Vedam to see Australia completely, completely at loss. Just didn't know what to do in the first 20 overs, then to come back in the way they've come back. Is this the start of that turnaround that Australia and Australian fans are so hoping for?
Well, Meha, it seems like it. I mean, the first 20 overs of the innings, it seemed like Sri Lanka have the grip on the game. And maybe not 350. I always thought 300 was going to be the pass score in terms of what Sri Lanka were going to achieve, because at the back end, sometimes the batting can just frail about depending on whether their lower order batsmen can contribute some runs or not. But Australia made a really good comeback. And as you said, this could be the start of a turnaround, because it seems like after that 20th over, after that first wicket fell, it just seemed like re-energizing the Australian side. The kind of energy that we probably haven't seen from them through this tournament. It's a very weird thing to say for an Australian side, because they were very un-Australian. Yeah. Vedam mentioned about the catches being held, the run out. Things were working in their favor today, catches going to hands and latching on, putting in dives, catching. Zampa almost on a hat-trick, Stark recovering his old bowling self. Things began clicking for Australia today. I think they've put in a lot of intensity into the field today, especially after that partnership was broken. And it just goes to show that if once you get on this pitch, you can score runs. So now Australia are, looking to peg back Sri Lanka to, I was thinking 250, 280 would have been a challenging total, but, it's going to be a sub 250 total.
Yeah.
So Australia
Sri Lanka are all out. I'm sorry, I just want to update you this total. Yeah. Sri Lanka are all out for 209. They are all out for 209 in 43.3 overs. And that just goes on to also show the kind of turnaround that Australia have made, in this match. To think that they were, 125 for 1, 158 for 2, to get them out for 209. Australia would be very happy with that performance, Chetan.
Absolutely. 10 wickets for 84 runs, the kind of, collapses the Australian team can fashion. We discussed in the last two matches involving Australia how an Australian team always, cuts down those 20, 30 runs on the field. So they fielded with a purpose today, I feel. And I think that fielding, display is something that has probably turned it around for them. Looking like the Australian side, which is a 5-time champion side, in its legacy. So things looking up for Australia. Now it's a matter of, whether their batsmen can actually get the job done. 209 shouldn't be a challenging total. But then again, we said that about 280 odd yesterday in Delhi. So weird things can happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be a play about the lights, about how the dew comes in, whether it's cool enough. It seems like it's cool enough for dew to come in. And Lucknow is one of those grounds where dew is going to play a big role as the tournament progresses. So let's see if Australian batsmen can finish the job.
Okay, let's look back at what happened. Now, Australia were made to wait for 21.4 overs for their first wicket in Lucknow. But once skipper Pat Cummins dismissed Sri Lankan opener Pathum Nissanka for 61, they hit back to reduce their opponents from 120 for no loss to 166 for 4 before a rain delay. Sri Lanka's stand-in skipper Kushal Mendis, he chose to bat, and having conceded a second 100-run opening stand in 2 matches, the Aussies looked on course for a hiding as Nissanka and Kusal Perera, who made 78 of 82 deliveries, took the attack to them. But Cummins and Adam Zampa then claimed 2 wickets each to slow the proceedings before rain stopped play in the 33rd over. Cummins got the breakthrough when Nissanka picked out David Warner at deep mid-wicket, and not long after he got Perera to turn the tide back Australia's way before Zampa took 2 wickets in 1 over. When the action resumed, it was Mitchell Starc's turn to strike as he bowled Dhananjay De Silva for just 7. Which was right after the resumption. Moments later, Sri Lanka sunk further when Dunit Velalage, he was found just short of his crease by a superb direct hit from Pat Cummins. Zampa then took a 3rd wicket, trapping Chamika Karunaratne LBW for his best figures in a World Cup match, and Mahesh Deekshana for a duck as Sri Lanka slumped to 199 for 8. Finally, Sri Lanka all out for 209. Let's also talk about Zampa. And, we're talking about Australia's turnaround, and Zampa has played a big role. Vedam, the importance of this, given that how dependent this Australian side is on Adam Zampa, and now he's finally among the wickets. He's been bowling well today.
Yeah, I think certain things are becoming very evident at this stage of the tournament. So as they take stock, somebody like Zampa, spinner, yes, definitely he has a huge role to play. But otherwise, what is becoming more and more evident is among the top 3 batsmen, somebody has to carry on. Whichever team is batting, one of the top three batsmen have to carry on, try to play at least 40, 42 overs, and it's not okay for the others to really, when the ball gets old and, become softer, to really bat. That's when the spinner like Zampa also comes into play. And for a new batsman to come there and, get used to those bag of tricks, and at the same time on a pitch which suddenly becomes slow and low, then it becomes so much more difficult. I think Australia have got that right today. Sri Lanka did very well with their opening batsmen, but one of them simply had to get along and play. And as we're looking at this tournament itself, we've now come to realize that teams really have to look at something like 230, 240. That's the kind of total they need to aspire for. But then once you reach a good platform, maybe you can push towards 300. But that good platform, you know only about the 40th over. And but what's happening now, we see is 25th, 26th over, maybe 30th over. If the spinners like Zampa did today get into the act, it's very difficult for the batting team to really survive later in the day, especially if there is an experienced batsman is not there. When I say meant experience, somebody who's already used to the conditions and who has batted quite a lot already. So the onus really is on one of the top 3 batsmen. Otherwise, spinners like of the quality and caliber of Zampa will really rule the roost.
How much of it was, Sri Lanka not really putting up a fight once their openers were gone? How much of it was down to excellent bowling from Australia?
A lot. I think Pat Cummins probably led from the front today. I mean, yes, Zampa was brilliant with the ball, 4 wickets, and he has a good record in India. In the first 2 games, he hasn't really come to the party. But I think it was more Pat Cummins who energized his troops. We say a captain's innings when there's a batting captain. I think we can say it was a captain's spell which got those 2 wickets for Australia. And I think that really turned around. That's a new phrase I think we can coin for Pat Cummins, a captain's spell. And then obviously Adam Zampa, what we have seen, and Vedam is right that the top 3 batsmen, one of them has to carry on, although I don't quite agree with the score that he said. From a par score perspective, I still think that 280-300 has to be the par score throughout this tournament, even yesterday. I mean, if England were chasing 230 yesterday, wouldn't have been an issue. But it doesn't really put that kind of pressure. To put pressure on the chasing batsman, you need 280-300 on the board. But I think the greatest significance of the last few games, especially since the Pakistan game or probably in the Australia-South Africa game, what we have seen, unless and until you're getting pitches like those in Delhi, in the middle overs, there is an opportunity to take wickets. And the settled batsmen up top, once you get that start, one of them has to go on and make a big score. We haven't really seen too many hundreds in this tournament yet. Everybody's been talking about how batting conditions will be in the fore in this tournament, but we haven't seen too many hundreds. Batsmen are not scoring hundreds on a daily basis. South Africa started with a bang, 3 there, then Rizwan, then Rohit. Apart from them, I don't think I'm forgetting any. So we haven't, obviously we had Davin Convoy and Ravindra Chindra on the first day. But on a daily basis, we are not seeing those big scores. We're not seeing settled batsmen going on and making those big scores. And the new batsmen are struggling with pace and spin if the pitch is affording them a bit of support. So I think there is an opportunity to take wickets in the middle, and probably going ahead, teams will have to reformulate their strategy. As for Sri Lanka, the top order has always been the good batting side of them. When it gets to the middle, you have Sadira Samarawickrama, who scores few runs, but then it's about their tail, contributing those runs. In the pre-show, like I said, it's always a touch and go situation whether they'll contribute those runs or not. And today was just one of those days that they could not contribute those extra runs.
Let's talk about what Australia will look to do. Vedam, now 209. Again, it's a tricky one. The pitch did slow down. You saw what Adam Zampa was doing on that pitch. How will Australia be approaching their innings?
You're absolutely right when you say that, it's a low score, because these low scores are the most dangerous, because you don't know what to do, whether to hang on or just go for it. But I think looking at the conditions, the way the pitch plays and the way the ball also, once it loses hardness, the way it plays, I think the template has already been set. You just have to go for the bowling, especially in the initial stages when the ball is hard, and the openers and number 3 just have to go for it. I just like to make a correction. What I meant was, you aim for 240, 250 runs, reassess it in the 40th over. Even the 40th over, you're 180, 190 for 1 or 2, and then the last 2 overs you can go for it. But if you start at 300 right from the beginning, you're, as we have seen now for the last few matches, you end up with 209 and 210, that kind of a score. That's what I meant. Yeah, but Australia, yes, Mitch Marsh and Warner, I expect them to go after the Sri Lankan bowling and make merry when the ball is hard and new.
Chetan, how important is it for Mitchell Marsh to get some runs, given that he's been struggling? Australia hugely dependent on him. Today, he needs to get going.
Oh, absolutely. He's the pivotal link in that Australian batting lineup without Travis Head. And, when he gets those runs, Australia's batting, works, because they have that dual pivot of Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, who are accumulating batsmen. They're not out-and-out strikers of the ball. I mean, in 2023, you can't have 2 accumulating batsmen at number 3 and number 4. One of them has to open the innings and the other one has to come at 3 or 4. You can't have them in the middle overs where you need to keep on pumping boundaries in the middle overs. So I think that batting lineup works only if Mitchell Marsh and David Warner give them those quick starts, get those 70 runs in the first 10 overs. And to borrow a leaf from Rohit Sharma's book, in the last 2 games, he's probably seen, especially in the Pakistan game, there was this thought, starting that around the 30th over mark, the ball is getting too soft and it's starting to do something, which is probably one of the contributing factors to Pakistan's collapse. So Rohit Sharma saw that, and that's why he went hard at the Pakistan bowling when both the balls were very fresh and new, and there was a lot of hardness about them. So in the first 15 overs from each end, you go hard, get as many runs as possible. This could be the new strategy in the first 30 overs going ahead in the World Cup, and I think Australia might want to borrow that. But again, Mitchell Marsh needs to get runs. Although there is news that Travis Head could be back playing for Australia from the 28th. But then again, they won't be waiting for that. So Mitchell Marsh needs to get runs, and he's a very, very vital batsman for Australia.
Let's also talk about David Warner. He was everywhere in the field, and that was absolutely phenomenal, the way he got those 2 catches, Vedam. You spoke about it, that this is the Australia that we're used to seeing. This is the kind of performance on the field that we expect from Australia. But David Warner's showing no signs of slowing down in the field with his batting as well. He's just somebody who keeps fighting. I get that sense. Every time I look at him, I'm like, he's one person I know who's just not going to give up. He's such a fighter.
Yeah, it's more like he wants to be in the scrap. Whatever the fight is, he wants to be there. And it's a good attitude to have because he wants to be in the thick of things, whether it's pulling the covers or batting or bowling. He wants to be in the thick of things, and that's good because he's so involved and immersed in the game, and that kind of a high energy can really rub off on the rest of them. And David Warner is somebody like that, who sucks up all the energy, and he's a guy who really sets the tone, whether batting, bowling, fielding. And, the fielding that he did was brilliant. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of brilliant that really lifts the side up. And that catch was absolutely outstanding. And that actually changed the tempo of the game. And Warner is such. He's played in India for a long time. He's a great IPL hero, and everybody knows what he is capable of. And the way he started this tournament, not very well by his very high standards, but I'm sure he's also very keen to make up for that. And I have no doubt that, we are just Australia is into their 3rd game. And I have no doubt that before this tournament is over, David Warner will really make his mark in at least a couple of matches.
Now, Australia not only need to win matches from here on, Chetan, but also improve their net run rate. Do you think that they'll look at that at all? Or will today just be about winning?
No, I think today will be about getting those 2 points. Those 2 points aren't really coming for them. It's just so weird to see them at number 10 in the points table. But look, if they can get those set batsmen going, I mean, if their top 4 can get set and start scoring some runs, and depending on how the pitch plays, once the batsmen are set, they're not going to stand around and go for singles. They'll easily get a boundary easily. So it just depends on how the conditions are going to be under live. But, I think right now it's those 2 points that matter. Yes, their run rate minus 1.8. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the points, then the run rate doesn't really matter. So get those points. This table is looking very, very weird. Get those 2 points, get off the table, and I think there will be matches.
The last time somebody said that England should look to improve their net run rate, what happened?
Yes. So I have learned my lessons. I'm a bit wary of making those predictions, Meha, on the show. Last time I said Australia will win. Look what happened. And yesterday I said, look, England's going to catch up with their run rate. What happened? So just get those 2 points today and prove me right for once, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Okay, let's also talk about what Sri Lanka will look to do after that complete crash of the innings, Vedam. What are you expecting from their bowlers? And also, I want to ask you, who will play a key role when it comes to their bowling? Do you see the spinners getting the wickets? Do you see them troubling the Australian batting, or their pacers?
Obviously, Tikshana is going to be the key bowler for them, and the entire attack has to revolve around him. But I see the Sri Lankan bowling attack as a very weak one. It's not even a weak one. I think it's a very weak one. So if Velalake can give some sort of support to Tikshana, then I think they'll be okay. But, the pressure will really come from chasing such a small total, 209. It's just like I said earlier, it is a small totals which are dangerous, and basically because the batting side is caught in 2 minds. whether to take it easy or go for it. And that's why the start is so important. It's very important that Australia gets off well, but Sri Lanka also will be wary of that. They'll understand the game pretty quickly that they need that breakthrough. They need to put that scoreboard pressure on the Australians. And if they can get a couple of these big hitters out of the way, then a lot could change and the pressure could get to the rest of them. I say pressure because, they are still on 0 points, Australia. They
Yeah.
really have that pressure of trying to get that first win. And all of them in the entire team will be aware that, this is the first and foremost job of theirs to get those 2 points and get off from the bottom,
Right.
where they're right now, they are virtually on the floor, 10th place. They need to get off from that. So that is a pressure again. And they're lucky that they're not chasing a big total, but also they're caught they're caught in two worlds, whether to go for it or defend. And I think a lot would depend again now on the amount of dew that falls later in the day. And if there's a lot of dew, I think Sri Lanka will have it very difficult. Otherwise, I expect Australia to cruise through.
Okay, let's now talk about the Indian team. They reached Pune yesterday for their next World Cup match. They'll be playing Bangladesh, having been buoyed by that 7-wicket victory over arch rivals Pakistan. Expect India to come out all guns blazing against their other neighbours. India are unbeaten in the tournament after defeating Australia in Chennai, Afghanistan in Delhi and Pakistan in Ahmedabad. Take a look at that. Indian team walking out of the airport. The city of Pune is all set to make history by hosting its inaugural World Cup match at the Maharashtra Cricket Stadium. And predictably, cricket lovers in Pune assembled at the airport to catch a glimpse of their players as they arrived in Pune. Rohit Sharma and company, they'll be eyeing their 4th consecutive win of the competition in this upcoming India versus Bangladesh World Cup match. For India, the bowling department has been exceptional. In the batting department, skipper Rohit Sharma, he has been in sublime touch. The likes of Shreyas Iyer, Virat Kohli, KL Rahul, they've also looked in good form. Opener Shubman Gill has also returned. He returned for the match against Pakistan. He is expected to keep his position against Bangladesh as well. But what a happy camp this looks, Chetan. I mean, so different to what we were thinking as a whole. I would think everybody in India, before the Asia Cup began to now, how things have changed for India, how good the team is looking, how everything has fallen into place. Is there anything that they should be worried about going into the match against Bangladesh?
Well, winning does that to you. I mean, if you're winning in life, if you're winning in sport, you're surrounded by happiness.
Yeah.
Everything looks hunky-dory, and, the world is a bed of roses. And yes, I mean, World Cup is all about pressure and expectations. But if you're winning, and even the public and the fans, they are confident about your team, they obviously look like a happy camp. There's no doubt about it. I think India have tempered those expectations with those wins. The initial starting wins, I mean, winning against Australia was massive. Winning against Pakistan, even more massive, although, there's a huge gap between Pakistan and India at the moment, given how the last few World Cup performances have gone. So I think that satiated the Indian fans for now. And then the bigger targets, obviously, is the semi-final. I don't think anybody's worried too much about reaching the semi-final at this stage with those 3 wins. So I think everybody, I was flying back on my way from Ahmedabad, and, the conversation mainly is about that one day, the semi-final, or the final, as it might be, those 20 minutes that have been hurting India in the last 10 years. So it's all about that at the moment. Against Bangladesh, I don't think there should be any issues. I mean, the only thing is I think the team needs to watch out against complacency. They need to watch out against overconfidence. I think Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli and Rahul Dravid, these are seniors who do not get affected by overconfidence or complacency. But again, that's a watchword, because we've seen in the past that against lighter opposition, India can have a bit of an off day. You remember the Nepal game? Seemed like they were on holiday on the field. So just watch out against that, so that there are no shockers really. Sail through the semi-final and then build up towards those 2 matches, those knockout matches, and avoid those 20 minutes of mayhem this time around.
But
if
see,
I can say so,
yeah, but that's the thing. It doesn't look like this team is capable of doing that. Those moments, this Indian team, they just seem so far away with them in the way they've shaped up, right? Just from the first game, the way they beat Australia, coming back from 2 for 3 down, you know, what Virat Kohli and KL Rahul did, be it the dominance with which they brushed aside Afghanistan, you know, with overs to spare. Then, of course, the Pakistan match, the pressure definitely would have been on India as well. As much as people say that, look, Sea of Blue, you know, the pressure is going to be on Pakistan, but come on, you're out there. Every move you make is being watched by millions. You know, you drop a catch, you're going to be remembered for that for the rest of your life. So the pressure is on this Indian team. Somehow I just get the feeling when I look at this team, they are just handling pressure so much better than the teams in the past. Do you agree with me?
No doubt at all. No doubt at all. See, it's the small battles that really matter in a big tournament. If you can handle the small battles well, then the big movements will look after themselves. Now, India, I feel, is a little confused. You played a team against Australia, and then they changed 11. You strengthened the batting against Afghanistan. You played Shardul Thakur as a batsman against Afghanistan. Did you need to really strengthen your batting against Afghanistan? Now, I think that's a little bit of confused. And in the very next match, your captain doesn't have enough confidence to give him more than 2 overs because the ball is still hard. You don't want him to bowl with a hard ball, and you've just given him 2 overs. So, and you made somebody like Hardik Pandya bowl more than normal, you know. And so I think these are the small things that you really need to look after. What is it that you want from that fifth bowler or whatever it is? Do you want a spinner? Do you want a fast bowler? If it is a bowler that you're looking for, then you go for your best bowler. You know, if it is a batsman you're looking for, I mean, you can go for a bat. But when you look at a stage that you take an all-rounder against Afghanistan, I can understand that you played an all-rounder against Pakistan or against Australia, but you take it against Afghanistan, you know, trying to strengthen your batting. I mean, that makes no sense. So you can't make these small mistakes because they can easily magnify. If things go wrong, those are the things which will magnify. So you have to identify the opponent. You have to identify what part of your game that you need to strengthen and get to it and stick to it. And for me, that's also a key. It's not just a question of pulling it off. Yes, what you mentioned, 3 for 2 or 2 for 3, that was an amazing comeback. I mean, I don't think anybody would have thought that this Indian team could come back that way, but that was an amazing comeback. But then that's what they're capable of, you know, and that clearly shows that they have it in them to make a fist of it. And earlier Indian team used to buckle under pressure. This team has shown that it will not buckle under pressure. But again, it's the small moments, the small battles that you need to win. And as long as you keep that going, then the victory is yours.
I also think that there has to be a lot of credit given to Rohit Sharma in maintaining this kind of calm around the team dressing room. Very often, whenever we've heard him talk, Chetan, I know there are times we've sort of wondered why he has to say something or it didn't make sense, you know, especially when he talked about experimentation and how players need to be ready to be able to bat anywhere and all of that. But all of that aside, you get a sense that he has instilled that calm, that peacefulness in this dressing room because he is that kind of person. And he said this in interviews, there is one thing I don't like is stress and pressure. I don't take it on myself and I don't want any of my teammates to be taking that pressure. We also know of how he, along with Rahul Dravid, speak to players if they're being dropped, if they're not, you know, being taken for a game. So do you see that seems to be helping them as well? Because he spoke about, I think he was asked right before the Pakistan game and he said that, look, I have been off social media for last 9 to 10 months. So I'm sure they're all under pressure, but they all have different ways of dealing with pressure. For him, I feel like that's the kind of belief that he's instilled in that team, that you don't have to be under pressure. Everything's okay. Even if you fail, it's going to be okay.
Well, first of all, I'll address the pressure thing. I don't think he's not under pressure. He is obviously under pressure because you're the Indian captain in a home World Cup. Probably only the 4th guy to do that. No, not probably. He's in fact just the 4th guy to lead India in a home World Cup. So there is obviously pressure. And there's this one line from the West Indies tour that stands out to me It was probably ahead of the ODI series or the T20 series when he was asked, "What do you think about West Indies cricket future? This that." And I was listening to the tape that comes in, for the journalists, and he said, "ये सब मुझे मत पूछो, मेरे पास already बहुत कुछ है सोचने के लिए, ये सब मुझसे मत पूछो." So it just shows to show that he had already a lot on his plate, and at that point of time, you had the experimentation going on, and he was probably under pressure, not really knowing whether Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul were going to be available. Bumrah also wasn't playing at that time. The Island tour hadn't happened, so there was a lot of pressure on him to figure out the different permutations and combinations, the different players that India could have used. But once all of that came together, like I'd mentioned on the shows, then he had to think about just one or two things here and there. Like, for example, when I mentioned on the show that he was thinking ahead of the Asia Cup about whether to have an element of off spin in his attack. So it's been a constant thinking process for Rohit Sharma, and he's handled it very well. Now comes the other part. There's this personality of his, even in the press conferences or when you speak with him. I was at the first game, and the day before that, the captains were there, and I was just sitting in the lobby, and he was walking out after that captain's event, and he saw me, and he was like, "Hey, how have you been, and where have you been?" And I was like, "Oh, look at this guy. He's so jovial, that I haven't seen him for a while, but he's there, and he's happily talking about." So we spoke about for 5-10 minutes about how his preparation has been, about the World Cup, everything in there. So he's that kind of guy. He's not going to take that pressure. He just stepped out of a press conference where everybody was asking him about World Cup, pressure, winning, this, that, ye, wo. 10 minutes later, he's talking about, different things, not taking any stress, clicking pictures, talking to people. That's the kind of guy he is. And I think he brings that bit to the dressing room. Stress nahi, wo, there's this Munna Bhai line, right? Tension nahi lene ka. That's what Rohit Sharma is all about. And I think the Indian dressing room right now is in that mode, tension nahi lene ka, and they are playing really well. And long may it continue.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, now on to their neighbors, Pakistan. Former Pakistan fast bowler Wasim Akram. He's criticized Babar Azam's team following their defeat to India by 7 wickets in the one-day international at Ahmedabad's Narendra Modi Stadium. Akram emphasized the team's lack of match fitness as a key factor contributing to their lackluster performance against their arch rivals. In a recent interview on a Pakistani TV show, Akram highlighted the absence of regular fitness tests for the players, expressing concern over the deteriorating standards. He pointed out that during Misbah-ul-Haq's tenure as coach and selector, the yo-yo test and the other assessments were regularly conducted, but now they're not being done. Akram stressed the importance of monthly fitness evaluations for professional cricketers, underlying the consequences of neglecting such practices as seen in the team's recent defeat. Now, of course, whenever Pakistan loses, Vedam, they're being trolled on social media. They're former cricketers. They have lots of things to say. But this is serious with Pakistan cricket. To think that they don't have any fitness tests, when fitness right now for a modern day cricketer is a priority, to not have any fitness tests, as he's suggesting, how surprised are you by it? And do you really think that this team does not follow any fitness standards?
Well, if Wasim Akram wanted Misbah-ul-Haq style, if you remember, every time a wicket fell when they were fielding, Misbah-ul-Haq would do push-ups, jump in and do push-ups, and the camera would focus on him. But if Wasim Akram wants that kind of fitness, we really have to go back to Inzamam-ul-Haq and wonder what fitness is Akram talking about. Because Inzamam's team, I don't think half the team was fit at all. But they had brilliant bowlers. The big problem with Pakistan right now is it has no depth in batting. And it's still bowlers. They have 1 or 2 bowlers. That's it. They don't have those 3-4 fast bowlers who could really make a difference. And if somebody like Haris Rauf or Afridi breaks down, their game is over. Their tournament is over. Right now, they just lost 1 game, but already they look and sound like they've lost the entire tournament. So I think there's something basically wrong with Pakistan. If you wanted to talk about fitness, it's not in the tournament. You should have been talking about fitness 6 weeks ago. For them to come and talk now about fitness, it's quite ridiculous. Even if they say yes, they're not fit, what are they going to do? Can they up the game now in the next 2, 3 weeks? It's not possible. So I think Pakistan really need to look at the depth in their team. We saw during the Asian Games, they just didn't have depth.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get a second or third team going. And we can see right now, you don't have batsmen, you just have two batsmen. You can't get into a big World Cup match expecting that one of them will come good all the time. Yes, they will come good. Maybe they'll even come good during key moments. But you need a lot of batsmen to come good. It's like the Indian team. You have about 6 or 7 batsmen, and any one of them can win the game for you. Now that's the kind of situation they need to be in. They don't have that depth in batting. They don't have the depth in bowling either, which is surprising. Because if you look at Pakistan teams of the past, they were always good bowlers. They had outstanding fast bowlers and brilliant spinners. And right through from the last 30, 40 years that we can remember, they always had brilliant spinners and outstanding fast bowlers. Now that's not the case. You have one or two good bowlers, and the rest of them are all trundlers. Uh, Maybe medium pace bowlers, and that is what Pakistan needs to focus on. Fitness will come if you have done the right job.
Chetan, your reaction to this, and also Wasim Akram has also spoken about that that shirt being given to Babar Azam by Virat Kohli, saying, "Ye agar uske uncle ke son ne manga, then why do you have to do it openly? Especially because fans are hurt. Pakistan have just lost. Why can't you do it privately? I think you owe this to the fans."
Well, first of all, the shirt thing, the dressing rooms at the Narendra Modi Stadium are far apart, like the MCG or Johannesburg, the Wanderers. So I don't think there's a common passageway to connect those two. So they had to come out. And to be honest, Babar Azam and Virat Kohli weren't the ones who were holding cameras. I mean, even if they do it inside the dressing room or wherever they do it, there's going to be a camera around because of the whole camaraderie thing, So either way, this was going to get out. But he's right. If you want a shirt from Virat Kohli, I'm sure you would get a shirt from Virat Kohli for your nephew or whoever that shirt is for. You don't need to do it immediately after your team has lost in the manner it's lost. I mean, 2003, would Wasim Akram go to Sachin Tendulkar and ask for a shirt after that game? No chance. No way. So I think somewhere that element has gone away from this rivalry, especially on field between players, that even on match day, even after despite wins or losses, they are mingling with each other, which is fine, which is good. I'm not against that. I'm just saying that sting has gone out of that rivalry a bit. You wouldn't expect a Wasim Akram to go to an Indian dressing room all those years back to ask for shirt. I'm not saying he didn't. He probably did, but in private. But not on the game day, not after his team has been trounced like that.
I don't think there were so many cameras then. You've got to also see this
true,
camaraderie that everybody
true.
keeps talking about. They used to be bigger friends. I mean, I've heard so many stories of Indian and Pakistani players. No, they've talked about how they've partied together, they've gone out together,
Absolutely.
they've gone to each other's houses to have meals. So I'm guessing that they were far more friendly than what you're seeing with India and Pakistan, given the situation that these two countries are in at the moment geopolitically. I feel like there are just too many cameras. Everything gets caught on camera.
That's true. The camaraderie is because of the cameras. I mean, if the cameras weren't around, we wouldn't be saying this. We wouldn't be talking about this. But again, I'm going back to my original point. Yes, they were friends. They were sharing meals, going out, spending time at each other's houses, and all of that. But not on game day. Not on the day your team has lost like that. That's what my point is. Would Wasim Akram do that on the day in Centurion when Sachin Tendulkar has blasted his team like that? No, he would not. It's not like he doesn't respect Sachin or he's not Sachin's friend or he wouldn't go for a shirt. He would, but not on that day. That's the underlying point that I'm trying to make. So yeah, I mean, the cameras are there, the camaraderie, all of that is very good, but not on that particular day. It doesn't make for good optics. It's all about those optics. Whether, it was earlier or it was now, it's all about those optics. Considering about the fitness bit, I'm not sure. I think they're fit enough. I think the Pakistan team is as fit as they come. It's just they don't have the ability at the moment. They don't have the talent at the moment. They've come in this tournament with 1.5 batsmen. They've come in this tournament with one bowler. Like I said earlier, I don't remember a time where Pakistan's ODI side did not have a world-class spinner. Shadab Khan looks like we could smack him out of the park. And yes, I'm exaggerating because he's an international cricketer and I'm not. But that's how it looks like. That's how Rohit Sharma treats him. So Sachin Tendulkar never treated Saeed Ajmal or Saqlain Mushtaq like that. But Shadab Khan is being treated like that. And the less said about the other spinners, the better. So from that perspective, I think Pakistan just don't have the team to win this World Cup, or I don't even think they'll reach the semi-finals despite what England and Australia are doing.
So I would like to, I disagree with you on the shirt bit, because I think if you're saying do it in private, what, do they have to be so careful now? Oh, what is the world going to say? We have to make sure that, our fans are okay. It's a game. They lost the game. You move on. I don't know. I feel like that's just not being your genuine self. That's not being natural. But Vedam, do you have a different opinion on this?
Yeah, I do. Usually this kind of memorabilia, prized memorabilia, like a Sachin Tendulkar bat or a Virat Kohli blazer or t-shirt. What do you do with it actually? You put it into a nice, lovely showcase, which is well designed, and put it about your bar, But does Babar Azam have a bar? I'd be surprised if he has a bar. But that's what you do.
Sharbat bar.
But I think, sorry, bar?
Sharbat.
Yeah, Sharbat bar.
Okay. But, that's the kind of thing that you really do when you look at some of the other cricketers. They have a nice bar at home and, and it's well displayed. But today we are into an era where actually the social media has taken over. When the social media has taken over, there are a lot of other influences. And again, you have sponsors, you have people who want talking points, people who want to stay in the news. So we don't know how much of it is really Babar Azam wanting that t-shirt and how much of it is, some agent or some sponsor trying to make something out of it,
Yeah,
and
there's a possibility. Though he said that it was his uncle's son who wanted it. That's what the reports are saying. Either way.
Either way,
we've spent too much time on it.
Over the bar.
Okay,
his uncle's son is also not going to put over the bar.
Virat Kohli if Babar Azam wants that for his nephew.
It's being cynical.
Virat Kohli,
but this is exactly how modern social media works.
And then we complain about how the cricketers are boring, how there is no spice there, because everybody is just so scared of, we're going to be cancelled. Oh my gosh, people are going to start trolling us. And then you're not being your natural self. Okay, but let's move on, because this is important as well. Now, we've already been hearing the news of cricket being included in Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. Now, that decision has been formalized by the International Olympic Committee, who voted today in Mumbai. Recommended by the LA Local Organizing Committee, the proposal was to include cricket at the LA 28 Games, and that was rubber stamped by the International Olympic Committee. 5 new sports: cricket, that's men's and women's cricket, T20Is, baseball, softball, flag football, lacrosse, and squash. These were the sports that were recommended as a package by the local organizing committee, and these were approved over the weekend by the IOC executive board. On Monday, the IOC voted unanimously in favor of including all the 5 sports, and with just 2 members who voted against them. Now, speaking ahead of the IOC vote, Niccolo Campriani, he's the director of that organizing committee. He had said that cricket was easy to pitch to IOC as one of the 5 new sports to be added to LA 28, given the popularity T20 cricket has among the younger crowds. And this is what he has to say. My friend here, Virat Kohli, is the 3rd most followed athlete in the world with 340 million followers on social media. That is more than LeBron James, Tom Brady and Tiger Woods combined. So he's also talking about, just increasing Olympics reach and making that more global along with cricket. Let's also listen into IOC member Neeta Ambani and what she had to say after this decision.
As an IOC member, a proud Indian and an ardent cricket fan, I'm delighted that IOC members have voted to include cricket as an Olympic sport in the LA Summer Olympics 2028. Cricket is one of the most loved sports globally and the second most watched. For 1.4 billion Indians, cricket is not just a sport, it's a religion. So I'm delighted that this historic resolution was passed at the 141st IOC session taking place right here in our country in Mumbai. The inclusion of cricket in the Olympics will create deeper engagement for the Olympic movement in newer geographies, and at the same time provide a boost to cricket's growing international popularity. I thank and congratulate the IOC and the LA Organizing Committee for their support to this landmark decision. It's truly a day of great joy and jubilation.
Okay, with that, time for us to wrap this up. News9 Live is what you need to subscribe to. I also want to thank Chetan and Vedam for joining us here on this special. Do let us know what you think of our programming in the comment section below, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out. That's it from us, completely out of time. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone,